Good morning, Micah 7:7. Today is day 5 in the study of the bait of Satan. We are studying on the topic of the question, how could this happen to me? Now, when you think about that question, I believe there is one person that has a right to ask that question, and that is a character in the Bible by the name of Joseph. Now, the account of his life you can find in Genesis chapter 37 through chapter 48. Joseph was a dreamer. God had given him 2 dreams, and he had shared them with his father and with his brothers. And he was excited about what God had given him. But it sparked some jealousy in his 10 older brothers. And so one day they decided that they wanted to get rid of this dreamer. So they threw him in a pit and was leaving him for death. But along came some foreigners, so they decided, hey, we'll make some money off of him. And so they sold him into slavery. And he was shipped off to a foreign country. You see, this was not strangers that had done this to Joseph, but this was his own brothers, the ones that he was so closely associated with. But when they sold him into slavery, they were actually stripping him of all of his inheritance with his father, which was their father. And then I'm sure they thought they were stripping him of all of his dreams. So when Joseph reached the foreign country, he actually came in contact with another situation. He encountered a circumstance that ended him up in a dungeon. You know, I can imagine all the thoughts and the feelings that probably was running through Joseph's mind and running through his being. He had lived a life of honesty and integrity. He had been faithful and loyal to God and to his family and to his employers. But this was his reward? A deep, dark dungeon? I mean, I'm sure all of that was weighing heavily on his mind. I'm sure that he probably wondered why his brothers had done this to him. Why had they sold him into slavery? And he found himself in this foreign country and now in this dungeon. And on top of that, why had God, the mighty God and covenant God of his fathers, why had he not looked down in his circumstances and situations and changed it for him, made a way for his escape? I'm sure that probably weighed on his mind, because he had genuinely been mistreated. It was no accident. This was deliberate acts that had been taken against him. And I know this had to cause some great hurt in Joseph. But if Joseph had focused on the hurt and the betrayal, he would have built up resentment and anger inside of him. And with those feelings in his heart and in his mind, revenge could have become the goal. Have we ever been found to be in a circumstance or situation that was brought on and was the result of betrayal from someone else? Maybe someone close to us, someone we closely associate with, family, friends. What was our response? Did we immediately want to forgive them? Was there some hurt that we had to deal with? Was there maybe some anger? Did we allow any resentment to rise up in us? Did we want to reconcile? Did we ever let it get to the point that we wanted revenge? God help us. So the question is, when we are genuinely mistreated, do we have the right to be offended? We may feel as if we do, but we don't have to respond that way. We don't. The way we respond will determine whether or not we stay in the dungeon. On page 30 of the book, the author talks about the fact that if Joseph's attitude and aim was to get back at his brothers, then God would have probably left him in his dungeon. Think about it. What kind of dungeon would we be left in if we focus on the wrong done to us instead of focusing on the God of our life? We might find ourselves in a dungeon of despair, surrounded by hopelessness and anger. Or we could be left in a dungeon of disappointment and grief that would be overflowing with depression. Or another dungeon we might find ourselves in is hurt and resentment that might bring with it the desire of revenge. You see, the only way to be truly released from our dungeon is to not take Satan's bait of offense. But we've got to give the circumstances and situations to God. We have to trust Him, and then we can watch our release come to pass. Again, John Bevere tells us in the book that it may sound absurd, yet the way we react insinuates that this is the way we view God. I don't know about you, but I want my focus and my view to be on the greatness of God and not on the wrongs or circumstances that I may sometimes find myself in. I hope that you have a blessed day today.